Hi, this is BK Black Krishna from manfulwars.com, where I'm promoting polite patriotism to help nice ladies and gents teach kids to be, look, talk, and feel great, and locally discuss and share great info we all find online, offline, as nice, helpful, respectful people making more and making a better place to live. A lot of people get sucked into YouTube videos where people with self-respect treat you with respect and talk to you, or podcasts and so on, and then they don't respect each other offline enough to discuss them or share them, and that's causing huge problems. So see manfulwars.com for more on that. And on that, this video is called Gender Attacks. Make it hard for men, women, and children to respect each other and communicate well. There's nobody I know in the general sense that would want that. However, there are rich, evil people who are trying to control or kill us who might want that. And if you don't understand that, if you think that everything's just a coincidence or people are just doing what they're doing, if you don't think the rich get richer and have a plan to and the poor get poorer, now why would the rich want that if they were nice? So there are certain evil and subversive elements out there. And if you don't understand that, then you'll be confused with divide and conquer strategies into attacking other members of the population. And that's what they want to do. You can see a video by a gentleman named Norman Dodd, Norman D-O-D-D, who was interviewed by G. Edward Griffin towards the end of his life. And Norman Dodd had a very interesting role. He was working for a U.S. senator back in the 1930s. And this U.S. senator was concerned. This is back in the 1920s, 1930s. So he was an old guy. This interview was taking place in the early 80s. But Norman Dodd, among others, revealed something very interesting about activism. So let's take it back to Norman Dodd's experience. Norman Dodd was working with a U.S. senator back in the 1920s or 1930s. And Norman Dodd was instructed by the senator to look into what the rich guy tax-exempt foundations were up to. Because rich people like the Rockefeller family, the Ford family, the Carnegie family, some of them were getting a bad reputation because they didn't treat their workers that well. And so, for good PR and possibly to be helpful as well, they came up with their own tax-exempt foundations. Now, they made sure they were tax-exempt, so they didn't pay taxes, to save more money when it comes to their foundation work or donations to their foundations to make their foundations bigger. So you had the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Carnegie Foundation, and other foundations. And Norman Dodd said in this interview, and this is backed up by congressional hearings, not just this guy making it up. There was congressional hearings based on what Norman Dodd and his team found out. But the bottom line is that Norman Dodd sent a female lawyer who was very pro-foundation to investigate the minutes of these foundation meetings and see what they were up to. And she was very she was like, oh, the Rockefeller Foundation does such great work. They do so much for charity. Oh, they gave money to the soup kitchen to feed the poor and homeless. Oh, and so he's like, yeah, fine, lady, if you like that and you're a good lawyer. Let's, we'll send you in and we'll get you to look at, some of the minutes of their meetings and so on. She came back kind of like, all messed up. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She had a nervous breakdown. She basically couldn't work anymore. She was so messed up by what she found out that she had a nervous breakdown. She was, again, very pro-foundation at the beginning. And they're like, fine. Then they're going to know we're not biased. You think they do a great job and they're great people. So let's send you in there. And then she came back, wrote her report, and she was just completely messed up. She was such a mess that the senator's office had to hide her somewhere. They say, look, we'll still give you your money. Just sit in this office and rock back and forth in your chair, just totally shocked because the world you thought, the way the world worked was completely wrong, based on what you found out looking into these rich guy foundations, right? And so between her investigations and Norman Dodd's investigations of the Ford Foundation and others, basically they found out that these rich guy foundations were being used to re-engineer American society and make it more socialist or communist and make it easier for these rich guys to control. So the rich guys increase their control over the government and then attack normal people, attack religion, attack Christianity, attack men and women and masculinity and femininity, attack the family structure, introduce a bunch of ideas that not right away, they won't work right away. But if you've got billionaires and foundations and their work carries on for years and decades, then over time they can really change society to make it more socialist and communist under their control, or the rich guys' control of the government, and then the government controls the people. So that's basically what the foundations were for. So there's a term called divide and conquer. And that's typically what the super rich people want to do, is instead of saying, hey, you super rich people, why don't you be a bit more responsible as super rich people? And you can be rich. We want to be rich too, as normal people or poor people. But can you help us out? Can you make a culture where we don't feel like we're doing worse and we, whatever? Can you make a culture so that we can do better and we can be richer and we'll work for you and we'll, whatever, right? And so that's the battle going on between some of the socialist super rich people that want to push that, and the capitalist rich people that are a bit more free market and free enterprise and so on. There are different times when they want different things from us, right? When they want to build up the industrial base and have a lot of people working in their companies and developing new technologies, then they will give us more freedom and they will give us more opportunity and give us more chance to make more money, more millionaires and more billionaires and so on. And then when they want to control us more, they will choke a lot of that off. So that's the bigger picture of how these super rich people work generationally, and that's how the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And when it comes to the divide and conquer, gender is a huge way that they want to attack us, right? That's why a guy like Aaron Russo, who was a famous Hollywood filmmaker, he made Trading Places. He was the producer of Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. He made The Rose, Oscar-winning film with Bette Midler in the 70s, produced a bunch of musicals, ran some clubs and so on. And Aaron Russo told a story about how he was friends with one of the Rockefeller, the famous American super rich Rockefeller family. He was friends with one of the Rockefeller families, with a member of the Rockefeller family who was also a lawyer. This member of the Rockefeller family, they're a big family. They have a bunch of kids. They have cousins. Blah blah blah. He was a rich Rockefeller, and he was working as a lawyer. And he saw one of Aaron's movies, and he liked Aaron. He said, "I want to meet that guy. I like the way that guy thinks." Right. And so he met Aaron Russo, and they became friends, right? Just a rich guy, who likes a rich Hollywood guy, and they hang out, and they smoke cigars, and they drink booze, and they do what rich guys do, right? And so, Rockefeller one day said to his friend Aaron Russo, and this is Aaron Russo telling the story later, he said, "Hey, Aaron, do you know why our rich guy foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation and family, promoted feminism so much? Do you know why we did that?" And Aaron Russo was like, I don't think about it much. I haven't even given it much thought, but I don't know. So women could work, so women could vote. And his Rockefeller family buddy says, Aaron, you're so stupid. Look, the Rockefeller family promoted feminism because half the population wasn't working. They weren't working for our companies. And they weren't paying taxes to our government, which we controlled. Half the population wasn't working. They were at home with the kids, right? So now we got twice as many people working for us. Instead of, working for their man and their family and making sure all that's cool and having him be happy and him work hard to make sure you're cool, we got them working for the man, us. They weren't working. And we got them paying taxes. So we got twice as much in taxes, or, eventually, when both, when it became so normal for both halves of a couple to work. Plus, we got the kids out of the home, and we got them in our government schools, and we got to brainwash them into socialism and identity politics and so on, right? That's why we promoted all that stuff. Plus, we divided the men and women, right? We got the women to go, you men have been holding us back. You men have been evil. It's like, what? What do you mean, baby? I mean, there have been some good ones and some bad ones, no doubt. But we always, if you're nice to us, we're nice to you. You inspire us to kick some ass. You would, if somebody pisses you off, we kill them. That's what we're here for. What are you talking about? No, it's crazy, right? But no, you've been holding us back. You patriarchy, you this patriarchy. The whole thing was based on making sure you were cool. We felt strong and useful. Men want to feel useful. You felt safe and special. Women want to feel special. That's what it was before. No, you suck. You suck. You always sucked. Men have sucked. No, that's not true, right? And so, ideas like that were pushed, and they were getting women to rebel against men who were supposed to take care of them and protect them instead of being nice and getting what they want anyway. And that's what my buddy's grandmother said. My buddy's grandmother, he told me this. We had conversations about this sort of thing. His grandmother was like 90 when she said this, but she was, sharp as a whip. And she said, I feel so bad for young ladies these days. And my buddy's like, why is that, Grandma? He goes, well, back in my day, we got whatever we wanted from our men. We just never argued about it. We never argued. We got whatever we wanted. We just never argued with them, right? It was simple, right? It was, sweetie, I'd love to get an extra stick of butter to cook dinner. God damn it, woman, I can climb mountains and wrestle grizzly bears. I can get you a goddamn stick of butter. I'll be back. Anything else you need? No, dear, that'll be just fine. No problem, honey. I'll take care. Yes, I can do this. I can do anything for my family, God damn it. Anything for my woman, anything for my kids. There was no arguing. You got whatever you wanted. I mean, within reason, just like anybody else should. But you pretty much got whatever you wanted, which was to be happy in a nice home with a nice family and then some perks and some vacations and some pretty stuff, nice dress, nice jewelry, whatever. Who cares? But they didn't argue about it. That was the key. And so my buddy's grandma, talked about that compared to, what feminism has wrought, right? So that's some of the history of why these things are happening today, right? And that's the reason they want this divide and conquer stuff, where Black Lives Matter, white people suck, you own slaves. It's like, what do you mean we own slaves? If you look at American slavery, first of all, slavery was normal around the world. The reason that white people in America and Europe bought slaves from Africa is because black people in Africa were enslaving each other and selling those slaves to other black people and to Americans and Europeans. So there was slavery all over the world, right? Not that it's right, but there was slavery all over the world. It wasn't like they went there and the white people, hunted down black people in Africa, because if they tried to do that, and there might have been some of that going on, but probably not. But basically what the records show is that there were slave auctions, and they came over with their, American gold coins or European gold coins, and they paid about $5,000 each to buy the biggest black guys they could find in Africa. And the African slave masters in Africa were really happy to get that gold, because if they sold slaves to other Africans, they couldn't charge them as much. So, that slavery they were part of that process. And then when it comes to who owned slaves in the U.S., it was only about 2-3% of the population in the American South who owned slaves. It wasn't the other 97-98% of people. The other 97-98% of people, excluding the other super rich, so say the other 95% of people, they were slaves too. They weren't treated as badly as black slaves. But they weren't treated that much better. They were sharecroppers working on a farm. You have this chunk of farm. You get to live on a piece of this land. You got to work it all day. Then you got to sleep in that hut. You and your wife can have kids, and then your kids can work on our giant farms. They were basically white slaves. Now, did they have it as bad as black people? No. But did they have it much better? No. There was a bunch of white faux slaves as well, right? There's only 2-3% max who actually owned slaves, who were like, well, I'm a big lemonade drinking landowner, and I'm in the dirty South, and I've got a great nice white suit on, and I sip my lemonade, and I've got my 50 slaves working my farm. It wasn't like every white person was like that, right? And yet you've got these rich people foundations who pay activist groups. They support activist groups like the Black Lives Matter group, like the feminist groups, like the trans groups, like the other groups. They pay those groups to attack normal people and confuse and divide and conquer us. So you'll say, you know, some groups say, well, you need to pay reparations because all white people, you know, were slave owners. All white people were this. No, it's not true. And if you want to talk about who ended slavery, it was a bunch of white people. It was a bunch of white Christians, right? So, you know, that gives you an idea. And even the trans groups. So many trans people are killed every day. Where? Who? How? You know, I'm not saying it never happens, but if it ever did happen, you'd see it on the news. You'd see CNN, ABC, NBC, CBC in Canada, you know, making a huge stink about it. But you don't, because it doesn't. You don't want to mess with a big guy in a dress. Are you crazy? That guy's he's a dude. No way. Now, you might get the odd thing where some tranny hooker tricks a guy into thinking that, you know, some drunk guy into thinking that he's a girl, biologically a girl, and then, you know, the guy feels his penis and they get into some fight. But typically, no, we don't care. You know, they're like an invisible group of people that are supposedly really persecuted and that we all have to change everything for. And again, this is pushed by the activist groups, right? Because typically we don't care. If you're any good at being a man or a woman, even if you switch genders, it doesn't matter. Or if you're a dude that's a little feminine, well, I've got a delicate voice, and maybe I'm gay or maybe I'm not that gay, but I'm a nice guy. Fine, fine, fine. Who cares? You're a nice, sensitive guy. You like musicals, but you're nice. Who cares, right? Or if you're a woman who's like, no, I'm a tomboy. Yep, I like playing sports. I like getting my skin in my knees and my elbows. Fine, fine, fine. Just be a nice girl. Who cares? We never cared before when it was normal people doing that. And if people want to go all the way and switch, we never cared either, right? So it was never a big deal unless you were a prick. Now with the new activist culture, you're encouraged to be a prick. You're encouraged to be somebody that hates normal people, hates most people. You don't want people to tolerate you and you know, more privately do some of your freakier stuff and just try and act normal in public. You want to bully everyone else into putting up with you. So it's ugly attitude instead of confident or pretty pride. And that's what they encourage as part of attacks on normal people and on gender and so on. So, and when it comes to gender attacks, I just want to set up the you know, why are activist groups doing this? Because super rich people foundations pay them. The person who leads the men suck, and men have always sucked, and all sex is rape, and whatever group, the leader of that group, you know, they make a few $100,000 or a few $100,000 a year. And then the activists make, you know, 50, 60, whatever $1,000 a year. And they pay some people to, and they've got all these professional signs, not made at home, you know, that they print out. They pump money into these groups to destabilize cultures. That's why these groups are out there. So you can't just take people who say they're doing the right thing seriously because they say that. You've got to look into this deeper. And this gets into the gender attacks because they do make it hard for men, women, and children to respect each other and communicate well. That's ultimately what the point of gender attacks are. Because when people respect each other and communicate well, it's easy to talk about this. And if you'll notice, it's not. That's why they attack gender so much, to make it so people don't have self-respect. They're confused, they confuse each other, and then they don't respect each other and communicate well. They don't trust each other. They can't laugh about all this bullshit. They got to suffer, you know, socially constipated. I can't talk, political correctness, identity politics. What do we say? I don't want to get political, but everything's political now, so I guess we just won't talk. And gender neutralized. Well, a guy, a girl, this and that, not sure what you say. Hey, I'm a rebel. I don't want to be a man. I want to be a woman, but I don't look like a woman, so there's nothing to look at. But I have to force people to look at me. It's like, what? It's bullshit, right? Or a woman. I want to be a man. That's it. I'll get in your face. What man wants another man in their face? Gross. Who wants to be obnoxious like that? You know, big, strong guys are usually disciplined about their strength, and confident, graceful, feminine girls are usually charming about getting attention. That's how it's supposed to work. If you flip it, then you've got big boorish guys, like the classic drag queens that used to make fun of audience members, and they were doing it for a joke, right? The big fat guy in a dress. Hey, you out there, I can't believe you wore that suit. That suit makes you look like you're 8 years old. But that type of thing. They're boorish and ugly, right? It can be funny, or it can just be really ugly. Or women out there that are like, screw this, I'm miserable. It's like, yeah, pissed off guys can be sexy. Pissed off girls, gross, generally speaking, right? And so, that's why these gender attacks are so important, and because they screw up our ability to have self-respect and respect each other and communicate well. Now, I'll get into a couple of other terms here. Historically speaking, there's a woman named Camille Paglia. Camille, Camille, C-A-M-I-L-L-E, and Paglia, P-A-G-L-I-A. I strongly recommend you check out some clips of her speaking on YouTube or your other preferred video platform and possibly share them, because she is an expert in this area. She's a lesbian, and she's obsessed with gender and androgyny and art and culture and history. So you might think, dude, why do I want this bitch blowing smoke up my ass and making me feel like shit? It's like, no, you don't, and she won't. She doesn't do that. She, in fact, is a big defender of normal people, of normal men and normal women, and of people that want to do something else, who are different, who are unique, who deserve, if they carry themselves with respect and show and get it, to be respected. But that doesn't mean everybody else should do the same thing. So she loves androgyny. She's a lesbian herself. She's interested. She's curious about it in art. But she says historically, it's not good for most people. It's not good for most people. It's not good for kids. And it's not good for societies. In fact, she says cultures collapse when this sort of thing happens. You see in ancient Rome, ancient Greece or whatever, statues of strong, robust men, broad shoulders, and muscular, guys, and graceful, beautiful, curvy women out there, these shoulders, the paintings and statues and so on. And then, as corresponding with cultural collapse, you see the guys start skinnier statues, less robust, more wet noodly. Ooh, this is what we're doing now. Look at me, like I'm a girl. There's nothing to look at, so I'll force you to look at me like a big ugly bitch. Ooh, look at me, right? And the women get more masculine. Screw this, muscle through this bullshit. Life is suffering, or whatever. That's a sign of cultural collapse. So Camille Paglia, she argues that it's totally fine if you want to do something different, but it's definitely not totally fine if everybody does something different, because then it's not different, it's not unique, it's not special. You don't feel like you're cool, you're hip, you're breaking taboos if you're one of those androgynous or trans whatever people anyway. Like, you don't feel like you're doing something cool and funky and subversive. You're just like, yeah, everyone's kind of a gender confused mess, so even they can't be happy, right? So Camille Paglia is somebody I recommend historically to take a look at what's going on. Another thing I'd like to reference when it comes to history is the term faggot. Now, the term faggot, as explained by Joe Rogan, and you can fact check this elsewhere, you probably shouldn't use that term, very much because of the common understanding of it. People will be upset or whatever. But the roots of that word and the meaning behind why people use that word is more important today than it's ever been, because of all the miserable faggotry going on out there by people that are no good at it and that make themselves and other people miserable, right? Now, if you're good at being a faggot, and you have self-respect, and people can respect you, and you don't force people to pay attention to you, and you have people that like you, and you can like other people, then fine. But if you're not, then this is what happens, right? You're a pain in the ass. And so Joe Rogan explains, and you can fact check this elsewhere, a faggot means a bundle of sticks. And that's the traditional term. So a bundle of sticks that's loose. It could be a bundle of tree branches or a bundle of broomsticks, and it's loose. And if you try and carry it in your hands, this bundle of sticks or whatever, say you're getting a bunch of sticks to make a fire, and if you try and carry it, it wobbles all over the place and it falls out of your hand. It's hard to walk 2 steps because these sticks or broomsticks or branches are like this near each other, and they just sort of fall apart and fall out of your arms, right? And that's where the other word fasciae related to that comes from. Fasciae is where you tie the ends of those sticks together so they make one basically long stick, or the end of a bunch of broomsticks or other kind of stick-like round, things like that together, and they make one long one. And that's where the term fascist comes from, right? And the term fascist, which is, you see those Roman columns, those are fasciae. They're like, we are united. We could be a loose bundle of sticks that's falling apart, but we are united by our fascist ideology, by the Roman Empire or the Nazi Empire or the Mussolini Italian Empire, whatever. That's the term faggot and fasciae. So that's how those two are related. But more specifically, the reason that term for a loose bundle of sticks was used for guys to yell at each other is because calling somebody a faggot meant like you were with a loose bundle of sticks or a cumbersome woman. A cumbersome woman. A woman who's a real pain in the ass to hang out with, to hunt or fight with. Just a real pain in the ass. You can't even hang out with this person, let alone what if you got to go hunt for food? What can you do with this fucking faggot? What if you got to go fight somebody? What if somebody starts a fight with us? Or what if there's some shit going down and we got to go fight with another tribe? How can we do that with this goddamn faggot? This is like a miserable woman. A miserable, cumbersome, bitchy, ugly old woman. Right? Just a miserable, awful, always complaining, always bitching, always miserable, always slowing you down, making you uncomfortable, making you feel like crap. Not somebody fun to hang with, hunt with, or fight with. That's where that term came from. So hanging out with you, if I called you a faggot back in the old days of the term, was like carrying this miserable bundle of sticks that's with the ends that aren't tied, and it's, goddamn, this is a pain in the ass. They're sliding all over the place and falling out of my arms. Ah, shit. Or if I have to hang out with you, or go hunting or fighting with you or whatever, it's awful. It's just like, ugh. Hey, how's it going? Everything sucks. You know how it is. God damn it, you miserable faggot. You stop bitching. Just tell me what it is. Get it off your chest. That'll help. We'll fucking fix it. Don't be a bitch. Right? That's what you're supposed to. No, you know how it is. It's just, everything sucks. It's just awful. Blah, 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 blah. That's where that term came from. Right? So, and that is more important than ever today, with guys encouraged to do that. Now, I've been to Toronto Pride parades. I've never had any issue with people, self-respecting, polite Canadians who could respect each other. But today, that's not what's happening. Today, it's bitchy, ugly, sketchy zombie, pretend bitchy, ugly, sketchy girlfriend. Oh, bust your balls, put up with me. Can I help you with something? No, I don't have any self-respect, and I don't respect you. So what, I just got to sit here while you're just some miserable bitch near me? Busting my balls for no reason, like I can't do or say shit? Like I'm not a grown-ass man? What the hell? Yeah, you know how it is, miserable, bitchy, sketchy mess. See me, look at me, wipe my face, touch my face to talk, play with my hair, act like a rude, ugly girl. Can I help you? No, you can't help me. You just have to let me bust your balls, make us feel like crap, make sure we don't respect each other. Then we have to go bother strangers, make them feel like crap. And then we force them to see us look ugly, and then they force us to see them look ugly, and then we run away and do it. That's what's happening today, right? That's why this is so important. Because then, straight or LGBTQ, whatever, you don't have masculine or feminine people who have self-respect or you can respect each other, and we all turn into corporate clones or zombies, right? And so, that's why that term is so important, and why these attacks on gender screw us up so bad. Now, when it comes to women and children, women and children want power, right? When you're smaller, you want to be bigger. Even me, as a kid, as a guy, I was born a man, or born a boy, and then turned into a man. Poor excuse for a man trying to get rich. Not great at it, but not awful at it. I'm still pretty good at it, right? If other guys want to be cool, I can be cool. Women and kids want a guy who's cool, and they can know they're nice and safe and special, or she's good at being a good girl, or good at being a bad girl, blah. I can take care of all that shit. No problem, right? But you always want more power. And as a young man, I used to like comic books, big muscly comic books, or I used to like basketball players like David Robinson at the San Antonio Spurs. I'm dating myself, but I think I'm worth it. So, whatever, at least a date. I'm definitely worth it. And because he looked like a comic book character, right? So he was one of my favorite basketball players. And so, you always want more power, right? And women and children want more power, but they actually mainly want more power over more power. They don't want more power over less power. They want more power over more power. So, and they don't want ultimate power over more power, because that means that more power probably isn't that powerful. So what I mean by that is, if you've got some 6'5", 250-pound, muscly monster guy, right? Just go to the gym every day, 3 hours. And you've got his girlfriend, 5'5", 120-pound girl. Me too, You'll see guys work out and get bigger, girls work out and get smaller. Right? That's the general archetype, right? Now, she wants power over that guy. This my big strong man, whatever. And I can get him, to treat me like I'm a princess and kick anybody's ass who bothers me or messes with me or whatever. I feel safe and special. He's strong and useful. But they don't want ultimate power over that power. Because if they have ultimate power over that power, then is that power really powerful? Is he really a 6'5", 250-pound muscle-bound guy? Or is he a 6'5", 250-pound muscle-bound bitch? Right? So there's a careful balance you have to play there with women and children. And that's typically because women and children have always admired men that were polite and busy or friendly to be respected, and always had something to do, something better to do, something to work on themselves, work on something else, work on the house, do this or that. They don't need attention. They can get attention anytime they want by making a big stink, but that's why. They don't need attention. They get attention for what they've done, not for who they are. They get attention for something they've said. That's important, interesting, timely, valuable, fire, crowded theater, get out, right? But not just generally getting attention to make sure they feel safe and that, they're cool and just for being a girl or a kid, right? Now, and so women and children have always admired that. And as long as you're a polite, busy guy, then they can be polite and gracefully distracting women and children, and they can respect you and get your attention when you don't need attention, you don't want attention, you're not needy, you're not wanty, and then you can deal with the needy, wanty women and children who need and want attention, but they can put you both in a good mood by being nice to you, and so you're nice to them to get it. Right? That's ultimately what they want. If you look at, excuse me, if you look at an archetypal couple like President Donald Trump and his wife Melania Trump, right? Now, before he became president, Donald Trump was a successful billionaire. Lots of Trump ventures, Trump hotels, Trump golf courses, Trump cruises, Trump this, Trump casinos, and so on. Right? He was a successful billionaire. Worked his ass off, still works his ass off as president from what I've heard, as a 74-year-old man or 75-year-old man. And he's got his beautiful model wife, Melania Noss, now Melania Trump, his wife. Beautiful model, gorgeous, graceful, lights up a room, right? Now, you might think that she's like, wow, I'm Melania Trump. I'm with a billionaire. You know what I want? I want to travel to Dubai or Tokyo, and I want to get my billionaire husband to walk behind me carrying a bunch of shopping bags of super rich shit that I bought. And then I want to be in charge of dictating where we go. I want to go here, and I want to go buy something there, and I feel like eating here. Oh, I got to visit this. Oh, so wait there while I try on these 50 dresses that are worth $50,000 each. Oh, yes, and carry my shopping bags behind me. And she wants Donald Trump to carry a bunch of shopping bags as her billionaire husband behind her, going, yes, dear. Yes, dear. Yeah. Oh, I think we should go to the Gucci store next. Yes, dear. Whatever you say, dear. Yes, dear. No, she doesn't want that. He doesn't want that. And they don't want to do that. That's not how a healthy relationship works. Now, you might think out there in the gender-confused world, oh, if I had a billionaire, that's exactly what I want. No. You'd want a guy that dedicated to his work, dedicated to his job, dedicated to making money, dedicated to being successful, dedicated to kicking ass. And you want to be the beautiful, graceful woman that has to work to get his attention and successfully does and validates each other's masculine strength and feminine vulnerability and has a great time. So you don't want to dominate him being a rich, powerful man, but you do want to have some power over that power, but not total power over that power. And that's why gender is attacked so much, because that is, what is more encouraged these days. And it makes for miserable men and miserable women, miserable men, miserable women, miserable children, and basically a bunch of miserable, bitchy corporate clones and zombies. That's what's being created. And I got tons of video proof of that at manforwars.com. That's why these attacks on gender are so important, because they make it hard for men, women, and children to respect each other and communicate well. And guys just become obnoxious, ugly bitches. They hate themselves, they hate each other, and they can't get respect from each other or women and children when they're sent down this road. Whereas if men man up, women and children will chill out, and that'll work. And that's the plan at manforwars.com, right? And every man you've ever admired out there, Braveheart, in the movies, and others, and artists, and so they've made sure they're cool. Other people, their people are cool. Where they live is cool to some extent. And that's been what's admirable about them. So to go away from that now is a huge mistake. Anyway, I just want to make that point on why these gender attacks are out there. From the rich people, who want it, how they achieve it, to how it affects your daily life, and so on. So, anyway, BK Black Krishna for manforwars.com. Feel free to comment, subscribe, get in touch with any questions or answers or financial support. There are links below to help with that. Otherwise, I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.